Okay, this is a center gauge. Some of the old boys call it a fishtail. This is for lining your tool up. Now, if it's too small to fit in there, you can see it's not going to work. Some of them have a finer little V, and sometimes it's too small area to get this in. You can use this edge here, and you can come down and you can set your tool in square to your part. The other thing about this is to measure. If you take a little pass and you'll have a scribe line on there with your thread, you can measure the threads per inch. You can measure with this. That scale on there is 1 inch long, and you can see it's 24, 32, 14, or 20 threads per inch. So you can lay that down, and you can, if it's 20 threads per inch, each scratch line should line up with a line on the gauge. Every other one would be 10, and you can do it that way. 14, every other one that would be 7 threads per inch. Or we can just use this thread pitch gauge and lay it on there, and you'll notice the lines will line up. The pitch is point to point with the lead. So I'm going to turn this on, and we are going to set the cut up. I go in, and I'm going in with the cross slide. I'm going to use that. I have a readout over here. If you're going in with the compound rest and you have it set at 30 degree, then you go in 30, and the tool moves this way, and it cuts on the front side only. This back side, if you've made a homemade tool, will sometimes drag and rough up your finish. So if you set this at 29 degree, then as you feed in this direction, 29, you have a little gap in here, a little bit of clearance. So it only cuts on this front side. That's the idea of the 29. But these inserts have all the clearances formed in them when they're formed at the factory, so we can go straight in. I'm just going to touch this till you see a little black line, and you don't have to worry about this after. I'm going to set my 0. Now, once I'm at 0, I'm just going to take a scribe and make sure I'm set to the 8 threads per inch. The split nut dial over here, and the lever is here, or the half nut lever, and I'm going to engage on, it's an 8 threads per inch is even, so I'm going to engage on every line, 1, 3, 5, 7. The plunger for the feed for X or Y is put in the neutral. Don't worry, if you forget to put it in, it won't go in with the split nut until you put it in neutral. It's a safety issue, so you don't engage both feeds at once. You raise heck with the gears. So we're neutral. I'm going to take a pass. And now nobody's going to be talking to you, nobody's going to be bugging you, because you got to have your head in the game, because when you get into that little no man's land, that gap, you disengage the split nut dial. At this point, I will back out my cross slide, and I'm going to come back and just shut the machine off. And this is where you use the gauge, and you can see the teeth on the leaf of the gauge lines up with the lines I've just done, so that's 8 threads per inch. This part here, where it's done the full line, you can see why if your feeding disengages while threading, how that's going to ruin everything, but this will disappear once we get down to our full depth. You won't even notice that at the end. So I'm going to cut. So right now I go back to 0. And I'm going to start it up. Reset my 0. And what the book, I'm going in 81 thou. In the book it says 81 thou. That's single depth of thread. But on this lathe, 1 thou on here is actually half thou on here. So 81 thou is going to end up as 162. So some of these lathes in this school do not divide it, so 1 thou on on these lathes over here. One thou turn here is actually 2 thou on diameter. So this one is splits in half. The readout has a little diameter symbol by your numbers, and it tells you you gotta be careful. Sometimes someone's been messing around with this and they've taken the dial off, and that'll ruin the whole day. So put this back in, and zero that out. Okay, it's not doing what I want it to do. No reference. It's not zero. So I'm gonna, at first, because I'm only taking a little cut off the tip, I'll take a 20 thou pass and then some 10s and 10s. But the deeper you go in, the more of this edge you're going to use and the more cutting pressure. So the first couple passes are going to be nice, easy ones. I'm not going to use oil, I'm not going to use coolant, just for the filming. But oil will give you a nicer finish, kind of a more clean lines. And that's actually a 20 thou pass. And you have plenty of time to get that out and disengaged. This is back out, straight down on this dial each time, and it's plenty of clearance. Back around you 0 to the 20, and now past 20 I'm going to do a 40. This steel is, as you can see, it looks like it has a lot of lead in it. Makes it a nice free machining. Ideally, I should be doing a faster RPM, but it's a little harder on the nerves the faster you go trying to. So now I'm going to do 10 thou at a time. Dave, maybe I should get a little drop of oil on there. You can grab some oil. It sounds like it's working a little harder than. There's a chip on there. Don't use your finger to take it off. Use a pencil. Anything other than your finger. Now you don't have to bath this. Just enough to keep that little tip lubed up, and you'll be good. If you're going to a number of, say, like 70 thou, and you go past it, if you go past it, just don't back it up to 70 on the dial. Go all the way back out and come back into 70, and it gets, if there's any play in this cross light, it gets it out. The idea is, you're going in the one direction, if this play, it's pushing again. If you back it out and this play, as soon as you cut, it's going to drop back on your bit. As you can see, the deeper I go, that's a 10 thou passes. They're coming off heavier and heavier. I'm starting at 5 now, I think. I'm going to go for 5 thou passes now. even number threads I can engage on every line on that split nut dial. I'm only doing every numbered line. I'm kind of superstitious. I'm like Wayne Gretzky. I keep my shirt tucked in the back left-hand corner before every game. I'm just superstitious and I use the same line. I'm going to measure at this point. I'm going to take one more free pass at without at the same depth, just spark it out. Gonna go and set, just get ready for the next pass. I'm gonna shut this down. And unfortunately, that second last pass, I heard it make some noise, and now it tore, and I believe it should be enough material to clean up. I believe that it looks like the insert is moved on me, but I will find that out in a second. If I'm just going to get an airline just to clear that away and measure with a mic.